Hey there, everybody. Welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So, it's Wednesday night. Going to do something a little different. For the last little while, I've been doing like top 5 albums, top 5 bands, top 5 this, 20 top 25 this, 25 that. Today, we're just going to do the rare song ranking. I used to do these a lot early on, but I stopped doing them because a lot of bands I was getting into, and I didn't want to just rank what I knew. I wanted to get into stuff that was a little bit a little bit beyond what I'd been used to, and then rank them. But this was one band that I thought that might happen with, but I didn't ended up not really liking some of their later stuff. I kind of stopped with them at the 4th album and never really pursued anything beyond that. So we're talking about the Pretenders, of course. So I'm going to do my top 10 favorite Pretender songs today. This is the first time I've done one of these. I'm going to say it's almost a year now, I think, since I did the last one. So anyways, I did like the Pretenders quite a bit. The first 3 albums I thought were excellent. They had, especially that first one, and then the second one was really good too. They had that kind of edgy, kind of punky sound to their music, which a lot of raw energy and a lot of kind of almost a power pop type thing going on, but it was raw. And then on the next album, on Learning to Crawl, it still had a lot of that energy and stuff, and was still a little bit hard and stuff like that, but it didn't have quite the raw sound to it. And then by the time they got to the 4th album, Get Close, I noticed they had gone completely pop and were pretty much on the pop wagon there. So anyways, we are going to do our top 10 favorite songs. So normally what I do here is give you my least favorite to my most favorite. I'll give you a little bit of honorable mentions at the end too. Last time I forgot to do that with a couple of things. Mostly because I didn't have them in front of me. That's why I didn't do them. So, okay, so getting on with it. And this is, of course, just my favorites. Doesn't mean that these are the best Pretender songs. Some people, you may absolutely hate the ones I've picked, but pick your own. That's what it's all about, right? So, anyway, so number 10, coming off the debut album, which is probably my favorite of their albums, this one, is Tattooed Love Boys. That's a rocker, kind of punky, a little bit punky, a little bit of an attitude on the song. I like that quite a bit. Kind of a heavier song too. Like for them, it's one of their heavier songs. The next track up comes from this album, Learning to Crawl, which is an album that I probably liked this the most at one point in time. This was the one I took with me when I went out west that time when I was a kid and traveled out west, and the only album I had on me was this one. Actually didn't have it in album form. It was I had one of those Sony Walkmans, so it was on cassette, which was in the days when I liked that, but I can't stand them now. Anyways, Back on the Chain Gang is the song we're talking about here from this album. Really good, really catchy. Excellent kind of poppy song, I think, but really catchy, I find. I like it a lot. So the next one up go back to the debut album for the opening track, which is Precious. Another really killer track, a little raw sounding. Guitar is really good. I think this is an excellent song to open an album with. And I've always enjoyed this particular track. So next up, number 7, also from the debut album. You're going to find this a lot from this album because this is to me, this is a classic album, great album. So you've got Private Life. I like that. It's a little more subdued. Not as heavy or as raw sounding as some of the other tracks, but a really good song. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Stop That Sobbing, which I think is also on this album. Yeah, it's just before it. a couple of songs before it, I believe. Yeah, a couple songs before it. Yeah, really. So, Private Life, really, really good classic kind of Pretenders song. Next up, from again back to Learning to Crawl from this album, as My City Was Gone. It's a song about Ohio. Kind of melodic, some nice bass on this. A melodic, kind of catchy track. Not too much energy, not too heavy. Just perfect song in a lot of ways. Then we go back to the fourth album, which I don't own. I probably never will either. It has that one track on it that's radio friendly, played a lot on the radio that I did like, but I never actually went out and bought the album because I heard it all one time. Played on album sides, and actually was on a show where they used to play all the albums all the time, and they played the whole album, and I just didn't like it, so I waited to see if I heard more, and I just never got into it. But this song I've always liked. Don't Get Me Wrong, real catchy beat. Chrissy's voice is great on this. It's a little up tempo, but not too bad, and not too raw at this point in time. The rawness was pretty much gone. Then we go back to the debut album for a song that probably was my favorite song by them for a long time, and then gradually it's been replaced just because I think I've played it too much over the years. And we're talking about Brass in Pocket. I think this is the quintessential Pretenders song, the song that people think of when they think of the Pretenders. Chrissie Hynde's voice is perfect on this. I just think this is such a fantastic tune. Brass in Pocket. Next up comes from the second album, which I had in cassette, but I don't have in CD. At least I don't have it yet. And that's Message of Love, which I think is pretty heavy, catchy track. They had started their transformation towards more of a poppy sound, less rawness, but this one had a real catchy, upbeat thing that I liked. A riff that I liked quite a bit. So next up came from Learning to Crawl, another pretty heavy track, much heavier than most of the songs on this album. It's called Middle of the Road. She does a great harmonica part on this as well, really good. Her voice is fantastic. Just think that is one of the best Pretender songs and one of my favorite songs, period. Next up comes from the debut again, number one. I think this was fairly easily number one too. Mystery Achievement. I love this. It's really it's got a catchy, it's raw, it's got that great guitar lick in it. Her voice is fantastic. Yeah, real catchy song. It's a little bit heavier than most of their stuff, but not out of the range at all. So there you go. That's my top 10 Pretender song for this week. I'll just reiterate them. So we got Mystery Achievement on the debut album, Middle of the Road on Learning to Crawl, Message of Love on their second album, Pretenders 2, Brass in Pocket on their debut, Don't Get Me Wrong, which is on Get Close, My City Was Gone by off of the Learning to Crawl album, Private Life from debut, Precious from the debut, Back on the Chain Gang from Learning to Crawl, and then the last one is Tattooed Love Boys on the debut. So there you go. So I know that there's lots of other Pretender albums that came out after this, but these are the ones that I like. Kind of got out of them by Get Close was kind of the last one I kind of listened to a bit. I did try to listen to the new one from last year, but nah, I just not feeling it. Maybe I'll change my mind, but at this point in time, I'm not there. So a couple of other songs that I think should get some honorable mention, just because so good. Stop That Sobbing, which I mentioned earlier, another really really good kind of satire, talking about her boyfriend being a whiner, I guess. Like, it's best way. Up the Neck, another scratchy kind of a punky, raw sounding song. Like that a lot. I had 2,000 Miles, which we also had on our Christmas thing. I like this. It's a little bit different. This whole album is much more melody driven, I think. And then you got Time the Avenger, which is another really good heavy track. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Favorites. Sorry, drawing a blank for a second there. So Favorites. So that was the Pretenders, my top 10 favorite songs by the Pretenders. And I hope you liked it. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe. Give me your top 10 Pretenders if you want to. Tell me what you like about this band, or maybe what you don't like about the band. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, and we will see you next week for another episode of Wednesday Night Favorites. Take care.